Welcome students to the second part of chapter number 8, Natural Resources. This video is presented by Miss Grecienne Misquitta. The images and information used in this video are taken from different internet websites. In the previous video, we looked at the different types of natural resources, that is air, soil, and water. In this part, we are going to look at ancient civilizations in river valleys, plants, animals, minerals, and land as the different types of natural resources. Plants provide us with food, fiber, shelter, medicine, and fuel. The basic food for all organisms is produced by green plants. In the process of food production, oxygen is released. This oxygen, which we obtain from the air we breathe, is essential to life. The only source of food and oxygen are plants. No animal alone can supply these. As you can see in these images shown, some individuals are collecting wood from the forests. Similarly, some people are shown collecting different items in the forests like honey, resin, rubber latex, etc. In order to fulfill our needs, we collect various products from plants in nature. There are various plants on land surface. Plants are broadly classified as grass, herbs, shrubs, and trees. As you know, children, man has successfully experimented with some grasses to obtain food grains. This also helped him to avoid the painful wandering for gathering food and collecting different types of fruits and vegetables. He began to live a settled life. The next thing we are going to look at the different types of civilization. The term civilization basically means the level of development at which people live together peacefully in communities. Ancient civilizations refers specifically to the first settled and stable communities that became the basis for our later states, nations, and empires or kingdoms. Now, the first ancient societies arose in Mesopotamia. As you can see, it's next to the river Euphrates and Tigris, and Egypt in next to the river Nile. In the Indus Valley region, we can find the river Indus, as well as the Huanghe River has the Chinese civilization. Well, children, you know that farming always requires water supply. For the earliest societies, this meant rivers and streams or even regular rainfall. The first great civilizations grew up along rivers. Later communities were able to develop by taking advantage of the rainy season. People began to find permanent communities in fertile river valleys. They settled around rivers for a number of reasons. Rivers were an important source of fresh water for drinking. They could be used for transportation. Settlers also learned to use the water supply to irrigate the land for farming. Being settled in one place made it possible to domesticate animals in order to provide other sources of food and clothing. One can also say only four civilizations, that is, Mesopotamia, Egypt, Indus Valley, and China, showed continuous cultural developments in the same location as they were located close to a river. Plants make up the backbone of the Earth's diverse landscape that provides hundreds of unique habitats necessary for life. Trees stand tall in their habitat and act as the Earth's lungs. Birds pick up straws, leaves, bark, along with feathers, hairs, and other items to make a comfy nest in a tree, bush, or even tall grasses. As you can see, that we obtain products like wood, rubber, resin, fruits, medicinal plants, etc. from forests. If we consider the region from the equator to the poles as per the temperate zones, we find the following types of natural vegetation: the equatorial evergreen, the deciduous, the tropical grasslands, the thorny scrubs, the temperate grasslands, the mixed forests, broadleaf forests, coniferous forests, and the tundra region as well. Many animals make these forests their habitat. Habitat basically means a place where you can live. Animals who prey on the plant eating animals also live in the forests. Thus, we know there are carnivores as well as herbivores living in a forest. Carnivores are those animals that prey on plant eating animals, and herbivore animals are those that eat plants. Thus, many food chains develop in the forest. As you know, plants are the primary habitat for thousands of other organisms. Animals live in, on, or under plants. Plants provide shelter and safety for animals. They also provide a place for animals to find other types of food. As a habitat, plants also have control over climate in some places. On a small scale, plants provide shade, help manage the temperature, and protect animals from heavy winds and rains. On a larger scale, such as in the tropical rainforests, plants actually change the rainfall patterns over large areas of the Earth's surface. Thus, many food chains develop in the forest. Forests or grasslands are the habitats for many animals. It is basically due to plants that we have got animals as our natural resources. The food chain describes who eats whom in the wild. Every living thing on this earth, from an algae to a big whale, needs food to survive. Each food chain is a possible pathway to transfer energy and nutrients through the ecosystem. For example, as you can see in this image, the sun transfers its energy to the plants, and that same energy is absorbed by the insects like the dragonflies and the butterflies. Then those insects are eaten or consumed by the frog. The frog is then eaten by the snake, and at last we know that the eagle comes and consumes the snake. This is an example of how a food chain functions and how the energy is transferred from one organism to the next. There are many types of plants or the natural vegetation as well that lives and grows in water. This type of plants or natural vegetation is called an aquatic plant. One can find these aquatic plants in seawater as well as in fresh water. For example, one can also find them in oceans, rivers, lakes, ponds, etc. Just like how aquatic animals have different characteristics, so do these aquatic plants also have different features. Usually, we know that aquatic plants are very important. They may not be seen in our daily lives, but they do carry great importance. They are quite important for the aquatic life under the water, as they provide oxygen to all the organisms and animal species living underwater. They also supply food to some of these organisms. For example, the turtle eats the algae present in freshwater ponds. It is very likely that in future we shall have to depend on aquatic plants for fulfilling the needs of the growing human population. As you can see in this image, a donkey is carrying a load. Man makes use of animals for a variety of reasons. Horses, oxen, camel, donkeys, etc. are the animals that man used for plowing, riding, transporting goods, etc. Goats, cows, buffaloes were used as milk giving animals. Meats, eggs, bone powder. Bone powder is basically the finely crushed bones of animals used as fertilizers. Hide, hide basically means animal skin, etc. are other products we get from animals. Well, students, if you look at this image given here, you can see the difference between rock and minerals. The rock has a firm shape, it's not very shiny, as well as it looks like a stone. When you look at the mineral, you see that it is like a crystal. So children, we have seen that rock is a mixture of different kinds of minerals. Minerals are inorganic substances that form in naturally occurring chemical processes. We looked at how rocks were formed in the last chapter. We also get different metals and chemicals from these minerals. Some chemicals are used in preparing different types of medicines. Minerals are generally classified as metallic and non-metallic minerals. Metallic minerals are basically those metals in which these minerals are found. Metallic minerals are used for obtaining different metals such as iron, bauxite, etc. And non-metallic minerals are used in obtaining various chemicals like gypsum, rock salt, calcite, etc. All the activities of obtaining natural resources are being carried out on land. Look at all the natural resources we looked in this video. For example, we looked at plants, at animals, and minerals as well. These are all the natural resources that you find on land, except for obtaining fish or the fishing activity. The remaining activities are carried out on land. This means that land is also a natural resource. Living things that are born on land, they grow, live, and die on land itself. Land is an invaluable resource. That is why it is sold or bought. Obtaining land at strategic location. For example, when you buy a house opposite the sea or build a house with a beautiful scenery behind, using it for construction as well as trade are some other uses of this resource. Depending on the characteristics like physiography. Physiography basically means the type of land. For example, whether it's a plateau or a grassland or a mountainous region. The different characteristics such as the soil, climate, minerals, and availability of water in different regions of the world. Land is used for various purposes. The proportion of land on earth is 29.20% only. Depending on the characteristics of land and climate, various living things are found on the land in different proportions. The distribution of these living organisms, including humans, is not uniform, meaning it's not same everywhere. All living things try to adapt to the various geographical conditions like a rocky terrain, meaning a rocky mountain, steep slopes, flat plains, mountainous regions, forest covered areas, river basins, etc. Man alone attempts to make changes in the prevailing conditions to suit his needs. Every living thing makes use of natural resources according to its need. However, man started using many of these resources for himself alone with the help of his intellectual power, like his control over his mind and using his mind for developing a lot of things. Later, the increase in population and the greed of humans led to exploitative use of resource. Exploitative use meaning misusing these resources. This began to upset the balance in nature. This means that it is necessary that man also must use the natural resources only according to his needs, that is, how much he requires, and not in a judicious manner or in a greedy way. Well, students, let's have a quick recap on all the things that we learned today. We looked at plants as a natural resource. We also learned that the different things we obtain from plants and how plants play an important role in our lives and in providing us with our needs. The second natural resource we looked at was animals. We also seen how animals play an important role in our day-to-day lives, as well as how we use animals for our own needs from the beginning of time. The next thing we looked at minerals, and we learned that minerals are classified into two types, metallic and non-metallic. And the last natural resource we looked at is land. Hence, we know that Mother Nature has gifted us with lots of land and how man has been using that land for his own need from the beginning of time when he learned to settle down. Hence, these were the things that we learned today. Well, thank you, students, and hope you enjoyed this video.